When comparing different political ideologies, one can easily look at the difference of a democracy and republic, or monarchy and oligarchy. One comparison that many people look into is two levels of extreme ideologies, the most two perhaps being fascism and communism. These two ideologies, although they may seem different, are in reality a bit similar to one another due to its extreme views and similar tactics used by both parties. To begin, one must look at each ideology and see how they each work along with one another and see how they work together as a whole. Communism is the ideology most well known compared to fascism. Communism can be linked back to the philosopher Karl Marx. Karl Marx argued the system of economics was a structurally unfair system and one that privileged those who were lucky enough to own capital, such as factories. Those that owned the factory actually did no labor or work, but existed and profited from the hard works of those who were employed by the factory. Marx's argument suggests that capitalism was not fair for those who could not work, nor have good paying jobs, and that there should be an equitable opportunity for everyone. As for those who would own a factory or company, they themselves would be forced to earn their same wealth their workers would have, no matter what experience or skills they might have had. Fascism, on the other hand, would have a different definition. Fascism will be found a while later in the early 20th century by finding a solution to a government struggling. Fascists argued that the community has the right to determine what national interests are. To that end, the conflicting interests of workers, owners, technicians, and the state should be brought together under a single unit operating under the control of the public, called the corporation. The use of strikes or lockouts is to be forbidden. This idea of finding a common ground between one another, finding the causes for the country itself, was a radical yet positive idea, seeing it as supporting the country first. This ideology would become increasingly popular with many countries, most notably Germany starting in the mid 1920s, before it became the primary government. Fascism as well would make a country look unified and not separate. This itself would have a dark underside, where any who questioned or argued against the government would have been severely punished. When looking at the two, the difference are quite little. Both ideologies are similar at the fact that it is an alternate route to help people together, and both ideologies and authoritative. The difference between communism and fascism is the idea of what they care for. Fascism itself looks at helping the nation or country first, whereas communism looks into helping its people first, giving everyone an equal opportunity. Outside of this difference, both the parties have many similarities, just very different minor views. When looking at communism, one ideology that comes to mind with it is socialism. Although many people believe that the two ideologies are the exact same, there is one difference between them. Communism is more government control, whereas socialism is more independent. This key factor is what separates the two ideologies. Socialism itself has brought a lot of attention in the United States, as some have called for socialism to take a role in the American government. This has not worked though, and may never see an influence at least decades from now. The main reason many people refuse socialism is primarily its belief that it is communism. When comparing communism and fascism, there are, of course, many similarities and differences between the two. Both, in the end, are radical ideas that have shown not to work and cause major humanitarian issues and crises in the world.